Welcome back to the Black Sports Network, our Women in Sports series. I am your host, Brianna DeBose. What's up, y'all? Nice to see you back again. Today, I'm interviewing the Kim Hampton. She is a retired WNBA player. She has done so many different things. Kim, you've acted, you've sang, you've modeled, everything. Like the definition of like intersectionality and being able to kind of transition from sports and do different things. You played overseas. You were a part of the first WNBA draft class, which is amazing. So we're going to get into all of that, everything about your story and your take on Women's History Month and all of that good stuff. So Kim, thank you so much for coming on to the series and the show. Definitely thankful to have you.
Oh, and I am so glad to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. Now, jumping right into this, what are 3 words that describe Kim Hampton?
Wow. It just probably depends on the time. And what
I hear through. You. I hear you.
But I would say loyal.
Mm-hmm.
I would say compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say determined.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Now you have to dive deeper into that. Why those 3 words?
Well, actually, I know those are some words on the list because I had to ask 20 people to give me 5 words that they felt represented who I am to them.
Wow.
So those were 3 of the words that were always on the list and consistently on the list.
Mm-hmm.
I would have to say loyalty, just because I feel like it's so important, but it's just something that I think innately just had, even as a young person. I can remember wanting to just keep my friends' secrets, or being torn whether to, if it was something that was going to get us in trouble, being torn whether to keep their friendship and their loyalty versus doing the right thing. So that's something that I think I was just instinctually have. Determined. Once I've made my mind up to do something, I want to do something, I'm going to flip it, twist it, turn it, do whatever I have to do to get it done. And what did I say? What was that last one? Loyal, determined, and terrible. I forgot what that third one was.
You can make up a new one. You can make up a new one if you want.
Loyal, determined. Jesus, I can't loyal, determined, because I started thinking about other ones when you asked me, how did that come about? But loyal, determined, and then I am going to say compassionate. That's what it was. It was compassionate. Yes. Loyal, determined, and compassionate. I've always just had, again, this knack to be compassionate for people. I can remember having some friends that play basketball, and they were rough and tough, and they would bully people at school and things like that. And so I would always protect them, say, no, just don't do that. Stop. And I was just always making sure everyone did the right thing and always trying to take care. I was like, always took for the underdog. And so, so I don't know. That's just one of my natural qualities, I would have to say.
I love it. I love it. Now, what brings you inspiration on a day-to-day, and why? You have some fantastic qualities. We just went through them. 3 words to describe you. Now, what brings you inspiration on a day-to-day doing what you do?
I would say seeing things accomplished, getting things accomplished the right way, and interacting with really cool people in the process.
Yes. Oh, I feel that. Is that like more just so because of your athletic background that you have that sense of accomplishment? I mean, I know I feel it as a former women's basketball player. I played in college, D1, and it's something about checking off the list of feeling accomplished, moving through different things and feeling like, okay, I just overcame that. All right, what's next? Cool. Just took on that. Great. What's next? Is that how you're kind of feeling?
Yeah, I think it definitely is, because I mean, as an athlete, we have to do this today, we have to do that in order to get there. There are always steps to the process. And so, that's exactly the way I feel. I feel accomplished when I stick to the game plan, because again, as athletes, we know that there is a game plan. We have to have a system that's going to get us somewhere. And so just sticking to the plan is something that feels good. It doesn't always happen like you want it to,
for sure,
especially once you're no longer that athlete. But you keep making that list, and you keep, and I've just learned to celebrate the accomplishments, no matter how small they are, because they're still moving in the right direction. So.
Absolutely. I talk to athletes a lot, and I kind of address this in my own research as well. Like, being an athlete is very succinct. It's very like, okay, we're doing this in this order, and not a lot of things change. And then your coaches are kind of like, this is how it's going to be in the real world. And, you're going to have to be able to do these different things. And that's great. But in the real world, people will cancel on you. People will not show up on time. People will completely change the schedule. And so you kind of raised a really interesting point there. How did you kind of grapple with just that transition and, having to make these decisions now and be more flexible and acknowledge that, okay, not everybody's coming from that elite level of athleticism space that you are at. It's so frustrating, isn't it? It's so frustrating. Oh, it drives me crazy. I know it drives you crazy.
Listen, I'm telling you, I have toned it down so much because, as a D1 athlete, you're not late to practice.
Absolutely
you don't show up if practice starts at 11. You don't show up at 11. You're there by like at least minimally 10:30.
For sure.
And so when I even while I was playing, but especially when I would schedule meetings or whatever it was that I was scheduling, and people would be late, and when you're dealing with people in the entertainment industry, oh my gosh, it was just, or people might cancel, and you're sitting in the place, and so I had to learn to really tone it back, and then I also learned to kind of passive aggressively learn to hold people accountable. For example, I'm getting ready to leave, headed to the venue now. Is everything still on schedule? And things like that, and waiting. I didn't hear from you, so I don't want to leave if things have changed. And so I'm making people and holding people, in a kind of like a passive aggressive type of manner. So I had to learn to do that. I had to learn to be a lot more forgiving. And then I had to, and then it kind of brushed off on me a little bit as well. When I was dealing with certain people, I just wouldn't be as set on being punctual, because I knew that certain people, their MO is to always be late. They're going to always be 15 to 20 minutes late. So, and I was that's growth right there.
Yes.
Just learn. Yeah. So
learning to extend that grace for sure, because people, time is everything. Time is everything. Yeah. Time is valuable. Time is money. People literally have, as a consultant, I have billable hours. So boom, 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 like we're going through it. But it's very important. Now, you have had quite the career, and you do so many different things. And I want to kind of get into all of the great intersections that you have and all the things that you do off the court, as well as what you did on the court. Now, something that was so fascinating when I was kind of looking over your bio and looking over your history, you were a part of the first WNBA draft class. And I think that is so cool, because for a while, people were just going overseas. There was no WNBA. People were going overseas. Women had to go find their careers kind of beyond the US, because there was no WNBA. Now, please walk us through what that was like to be selected in the first WNBA draft class. At the time, did you ever think there would be a women's league? And what do you think about all the work that the W is kind of doing now and where they're headed?
Wow, that's a lot, but let's break it down.
Sorry. Part one, walk me through what you felt.
Yes, exactly, girl. When I get to that last question, you might have to know.
I got you.
Now, I never aspired to be a professional basketball player. Number one, because I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. So mind you, I graduated from high school in '80, baby. So there was no professional women's basketball in America for women at that time, and the only sports that you saw women participate in was golf and tennis at that time. So I didn't have any role models. It wasn't even like NCAA. And as a matter of fact, in 1980, the collegiate sports were still governed by AIAW. They hadn't even switched over to NCAA yet. Exactly.
Oh, wow.
I think it was the next year. I think it was like 81, I think, or something like that. So I didn't aspire, and I just started, and I was a late bloomer. I started playing my freshman year of high school. So I literally only played varsity 3 years. Yeah. But it was just that, I had such talent and skill set that by the time I was a senior, I was averaging 32 and 16, and I was the best player in the state of Kentucky. Yeah. And so then and again, colleges, I was getting all of these letters, USC, UCLA, Old Dominion, which was the top school then, Tennessee, every day. And then, of course, University of Louisville, University of Kentucky, but I just didn't know where I wanted to go.
Right.
Because again, when basketball wasn't played, I wasn't savvy enough to understand that the game is very, very political. And depending on where you go to school, it dictates a lot of the trajectory of your career.
Yes, absolutely.
So I could have gone to Tennessee so easily. I could have gone to USC. I could have gone to all of these schools, but I didn't know. And I just knew that I wanted to get away.
Yes.
So I chose to go to Arizona State. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me. But here's how things come first full circle. When I look back, I was like, man, I should have probably gone to Tennessee, or something like that. But it was just so close to home. And I just really wanted to get away and kind of just start my own life.
Yes.
But the head coach at Arizona State happened to have been at the time Julene Brzezinski Simpson, who was co-captain of the 76 Olympic team with Pat Head Summit. So it was a great opportunity to learn. I had a great college career there. A couple times I wanted to just pack my bags and go home because
we all did.
I went
hands down.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Because it was so hard mentally, physically, emotionally, and then plus being thousands of miles away from home. And so it was just a lot, but I'm so grateful that I stuck it out because, one of the many lessons that we learn is when you think you've given your all, there's always more. There's always more.
Yes, to tap in.
That's those secret compartments. So, when I left Arizona State, there was no professional basketball in America. I'm still the all-time leading scorer and rebounder, male or female, in the history of the school of Arizona State. And I scored over 2,300 points and over 1,400 rebounds.
It was a great move. It was a great move for you.
Yeah, it was. And so it taught me a lot about myself and who I was. And so there was no professional basketball, as I said, when I got ready to graduate, and I knew that I wanted to go abroad and play. So I was one of the 50 finalists for the Margaret Wade Trophy. For those of you that don't know what the Margaret Wade Trophy is, that's the equivalent to the Heisman Trophy. So from every state, they'll pick one player. So I was one of the players. And so at that time, I was approached by Bruce Levy, who was the agent placing American players abroad. And so he asked me if I wanted to play, and I was like, yeah. And so I signed with him, and probably a month later, I got my first job in Spain, and I played my first 6 years in Spain. Y si yo hablo español también, y yo puedo hablar con vosotros en español si queréis. And anche ho giocato pallacanestro in Italia per 4 anni e mezzo, and I got a chance to play a year in Japan. So konnichiwa, ohayo gozaimasu, and got a chance to play a year in France, in Aix-en-Provence, France, and I just never would have thought as a kid from Kentucky that this game could have done so much, given me an opportunity to get an education and a degree from college for free, and to travel and to see the world and to go so many places and to have friends all over the world. And it was because of that I continued to play. It was in my 12th year that the WNBA started. I'm thinking, in a couple of years, I'm going to retire and things like that. And then they start the WNBA. And then I find out, they send a scout over And I find out that I'm going to be drafted in the elite draft, like with the Olympians, Lisa Leslie, Rebecca Lobo, and all of those guys.
Yeah.
So I was drafted in the elite draft, and then I was by New York, and I was the number 4 pick in the first round of the elite draft. So it was none of this. I couldn't even make this stuff up because it just didn't exist. But it was like life unfolded. But the one thing that I can truly say that I'm grateful for was I always had a penchant for travel and adventure. And so I never, ever was afraid to say, no, that's too far. Or no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going there. So I'm just so grateful. And because of that, I believe that it positioned me to be able to be a part of something so special.
Wow. Your story is amazing. Your story is amazing. Then you bust out the Spanish and I'm just like, hold on. You were phenomenal. Like I couldn't even imagine 12 years into your career, by that time you're a vet and, professional playing wise, for them to call you and be like, hey, Kim, you want to join the WNBA? And you're like, wait, like I'm basically a rookie all over again, trying to do something with this new league that's just coming out. Like what? I couldn't even imagine. Like my knees are just screaming for you.
My knees were good at the time, but wait, that's what I was saying. So imagine me, I'm 35 at the time, getting ready to turn 36, going into this whole new league.
Come on now.
With the best players in the world. And then we have all of these coaches. And the craziest thing was that people didn't realize, because there hadn't been a professional league that lasted. A lot of women women coaches and never had the experience of coaching professional players. So here we get Nancy Darsh, who is our first, rest her soul, she just passed. Here we get Nancy Darsh as our head coach, our first head coach out of Ohio State. And we're on the road and she's telling us that we have an 11:30 curfew. And I'm looking around, hey, what? At 30, 36, 35.
What you mean?
Like, what? I'm like, excuse me. I'm like, Nancy, I'm a 12-year pro. Don't you think I know, what time I need to go to bed or what time?
Right.
And so, she was eventually more lenient with us because she understood that we got a mortgage to pay just like you do. We grown ass women. Yeah.
Oh,
exactly.
Wow.
So it was trying to iron out the wrinkles in a lot of areas, but it was pretty funny and cool at the same time.
It sounds like it's funny. I'll be looking like, wait, what do you mean? I've been doing this for a very long time. But I'm glad that you did it, because now, you get to celebrate all the things that you've done and be able to kind of create for women coming behind you. And that kind of brings me to all the stuff that you do off the court. Like you have all these accolades on the court, but you also have a heck of a resume for modeling, singing, acting. Like, please talk to us about these intersections that you kind of go through and who make you who you are. What brings you strength and affirms, who you are while doing this?
Well, first of all, my first love was singing. I remember my grandmother telling me a story that when my brother and I, this is before my little sister came into the picture, but my brother and I, we would always play. And my brother always wanted to play school, which, which explains why he has all these different degrees and things like that. So one day he said, okay, so here we go. We're going to play school. And my grandmother said, she said, I just always listened in on what you guys were saying, because we would go to her house after school until our parents got home, And so she would say, she said, honey, you slammed the book down on the table. Said, I don't want to play school. I'm tired of playing school. That's all we do is play school. We go to school and come home and play school. I don't want to do. And she said he had this bewildered look on his face, like, well, what do you want to play? And so I'm going to be the singer and you're going to be in my audience. And she said, honey, you grabbed this brush and started singing an Aretha Franklin song, baby. She said, I was bowled over on the counter and just laughing at you. So singing has always been my passion. I was always the kid where if my parents had friends over, they were like,
Sing, baby,
Kim, come in here and sing this song. But I was super, super, super shy, super shy. So I would make everybody turn around, don't look at me. And oh my gosh. And so I literally, but it was always a passion of mine. And I literally did not start singing professionally until the karaoke scene came about. So I would say that was sometimes in the 90s. Yeah.
Wow.
I take that back. Yeah, because I did start singing professionally in Italy at a club on every Sunday. So that was like my first professional stint. But that was a part. And then I always envisioned like having this modeling career when I was a kid as well. Like I always just wanted to be a star, and I never really said it. And so when the WNBA happened, I got all of these opportunities. I signed with Click Models and got a big, huge Lane Bryant deal, 3 hours worth of work, like 40 grand. And that was after. That was after, yeah. And then, and just everything, getting an opportunity to do some color commentary, on TV shows, being in movies. And that was just up my alley. And then transitioning into being a motivational speaker and helping people, because I can look and see student athletes that struggle with just self-doubt, or they might struggle because they're not playing, and just helping bridge the gap between coaches and players, so that they can everybody can just have a better experience while they're there.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Wow. You are quite the storyteller. I'm just like sitting here mesmerized. Like you just take over and just keep talking with, your entire life story, because I'm listening, and everybody who's going to be watching this is listening, because it just flows, so many people are just not at the point of sharing, all the great things that make them who they are. And it seems like you were very comfortable with that, even though, like you said, when you were younger, obviously, like you were a little bit uncomfortable sharing, your voice, but, later got comfortable to be able to share your gifts with the world. And I think there's so much power in that, and owning who you are and what you want to do and how you want to help people. And, through this conversation that we're having, when it airs in March, people are going to be feeling the same way. It's like, you share parts of yourself to then let people feel like, oh, I can do that. I can do that. I should be sharing my gifts, or whatever it may be. And I think that's so cool. So thank you. Thank you for the transparency and your experience.
Well, you're so welcome. But you know what I've learned growing up? I think growing up as girls, and especially in the era that I grew up in, I think it might be a little bit different now. We wanted to be liked. We wanted to fit in. So if you were exceptional at a lot of stuff, that would cause a lot of people to not like you. So if you wanted to just fit in, you would kind of dumb down your talents. Or if you were really pretty, you might be like, oh, I'm not really pretty. Or if you were, because you just wanted people to like you, because there was always a group of girls that didn't like you. They wanted to talk about you because maybe they were jealous of you. So I realized that quite often we dim our lights because of so many other reasons. We dim our lights because people can't handle our shine. And so, like, for me, I'm kind of like, it took me all of this time to understand that the gifts that we were blessed with, we were blessed to, no one else can do what we do. No one else can do what you do.
Yes.
And so it's up to us to share those gifts. And we all have different levels. When you think about talent and singers and athletes, and everyone has their own level of gift, but it's meant to be displayed for the world to see. So that's why I'm so readily able to share that with people, so that people can feel comfortable with who and what they're here to give and do and be.
Wow. Yes to all of that. There's so much power in that, and sometimes it takes a while to get there. So the sooner that you get there, the better off you'll be, whether that's if you're in grade school or whatever, because middle school's rough. Kids are mean. But if you kind of have this attitude about being uniquely you, rather than focusing on other people or, trying to compare yourself to others, it just is so freeing, and it takes a while to get there. So thank you for saying that. It's
And
real.
my daughter, I have a 16-year-old daughter. She's a junior in high school. She attends Bishop Lachlan High School, and she is a baller. So she's being recruited by, Kentucky, Clemson, Ole Miss, like a lot of big schools, and just trying to get her to understand that, to step into her power, because I have a tendency that she pulls back on the brakes. But I'm like, no, bust it down. Push a pedal to the metal, baby. Push it. But baby, she could easily be one of the top 5 guards in this nation. But it's like this. And I know exactly what it is, because that's what I experienced too.
Right.
So just trying to figure out and find a way to say and learn to say, and how to say things that that would be beneficial to her in a positive way, and to not, break her down, or to not criticize her. That has been my big lesson too, because I'm looking at her as if, I'm like, you need to play harder, and I'm kind of like, I know she wants to play hard, but something is going on inside. So I'm like, okay, you need to back up and figure it out. So it has been a process, because, I was like, I went through it, and some guy gave me the same scenario over in my kid to kind of learn. So it's like, but I'm enjoying the journey, and I'm just grateful for the awareness more than anything, because you cannot fix what you won't face. So.
Yes to all of that. And it's real. And you kind of have to, like you said, face it on your own terms, because no one can do it for you. Absolutely nobody can do it for you. And the mental aspect is so important too, because you can have all the gifts, but if you aren't tapped in up here, then it's not going to be clicking, and that's just the truth. And that kind of brings me to just checking in. I like to check in with everybody that I interview, because this past year has been a lot. It's been a lot. We've had the pandemic, we've had social injustices, we've had the election, physically, emotionally, mentally, all of it has been so much. How are you doing? How are you grappling with that? I know you're from, Louisville, Kentucky. How did you kind of feel about everything that has transpired over, the last year, I would say, but obviously way before then, since the dawn of America. But, what drives you to get through your day despite all that's going on around you, especially, in that context?
Well, what drives me is where I allow my focus to be, and that's I choose to focus on being blessed. We can look at what the pandemic has done physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, to millions of people, and we can think bad, and that's what it's going to be. But I choose to focus on the powerful, positive stuff that COVID-19 allowed. When you think about it, I mean, this was one time that the whole world got an opportunity to sit back and chill. You didn't have to go to work. Countries were able to provide financial help and support. But this was a time that we got to spend more family time than we would have ever gotten, ever in history. This was a time that we got to reflect on what was, what is, and what we would like for it to be. We got a chance to sit down and go back to the drawing board on so many things. And for those that made it through COVID, you're here. For those that got it, and made it, you're here. For those that haven't gotten it, you're here. I mean, we've learned. Look how we're doing interviews now. I mean, we've learned how to study, and we learned more about technology. We learned how to put different spins on what it is that we do. We had to grow as people, and we probably wouldn't have never grown as people, had certain things not happened. And I always say one of the craziest things is it takes pain to make people change and grow.
Wow.
That is the denominator that will make everyone grow. Pain and tragedy makes people grow. So, I look back over, all of the Black Lives Matter stuff, and I attribute it to, when you think back to Martin Luther King and all of those people, Rosa Parks, that sacrificed so much. They were getting water hose down, getting dogs sicked on them, being hung, and all of that, just to be able to go to schools that we don't even want to go to this day and time.
Yeah.
They couldn't even drink out of a water fountain or eat in a restaurant. Or, Muhammad Ali went to jail for 2 years because he refused to go to fight for a country. He's like, they don't even treat me like a human being.
Right.
And so, so I look at, and then when we were able to do those things, we stopped. We got comfortable and we didn't do anything. And so I believe that that's why, things had to be shaken up again. People had to start being killed again because, again, there's all of the systematic racism and that's still undertone that still rules a lot of this country. So, I mean, it gave us the opportunity to see all of that because had we been going 1,000 miles a minute, like we always were, we would have never seen all of these. So it's given us an opportunity to address this, to put it on the table, to talk about it, to show the world. We're not just saying that we're discriminated against. See it for yourselves. And this is the first time that a spotlight has been on all of this, and so this is the first time that as a world we can see and make change and create change. And I believe all of this had to happen, just
rip the Band-Aid
for
off.
us to move better. Exactly.
Absolutely.
So those are the things that, it keeps me going because I know it's never ever about that out there. It's always about you. It's always about you because things are going to always happen to you. Things are going to always go down, but it's more dependent about how you choose to perceive it and react to it. That really makes the difference.
Yes. I think, you mentioned MLK, obviously a prominent figure in history and Black history as we record this interview during Black History Month. And one of my favorite quotes by him is about moving forward. If you can't crawl, walk, or what, like if you can, how does it go? It's like,
it's like if you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. If you can't,
exactly. All of that. But by any means, keep moving forward, and I think that's something that we have done, right? And at certain moments, we've had to crawl. At certain moments, we've had to walk. But we keep moving forward because at the end of the day, that's what we have to do. And when I think back at this time, I'm just like, we had to go through our stages of grief of, okay, oh, man, the spring is gone, the winter is gone, all these different stages of grief and becoming accepting of where we're at and be able to take what we're at and what we're doing and make it something, make it something great. Right. So we're doing this interview virtually. Like I'm questioning, would I have been able to do this interview with you if we were all in person, right? And everybody's traveling in the world and everybody's doing all this different stuff. Would we have had the time to be able to sit down and have this conversation that is so necessary? And I can't wait for it to air. Now, this kind of brings me to this interview is going to be aired during Women's History Month, right? We're recording it during Black History Month. It's going to air during Women's History Month. This month alone does not always highlight Black women enough and the beautiful intersections that we have to offer, right? When you think of celebrating Women's History Month, what stands out in your mind that is part of our history that you can relate to?
How diverse we are. How diverse. I just think it is just so awesome that we are so different. Someone said that there are 26 colors of African Americanness. There are 26 shades. And when you think about it, so that's all of how diverse we are as far as beauty, how diverse we are as far as intelligence and our patience and our drive. And I think for me, that's what stands out. This is an opportunity to show the world just how diverse we are. And everyone is diverse. I mean, each and every race, as people, we are diverse, but we just don't get to see how awesome we are as Black women. And so for me, Black History Month is so important. Because not all of the history books have shown. They might show, Frederick Douglass and a handful, Harriet Tubman, a handful of people. But there is so much more to our story. And us as Black women, oh my gosh. And so, I just think just being able to show how diverse we are and how powerful we are is it's just amazing.
I love it. I love it. My last question for you before we get into some quick fire questions is a two-parter, but I'm going to break it down for you. So it's not like too much, because I don't want to, override the questions. But, thus far in your career, what is your proudest moment? And do you have any advice to young women kind of coming behind you? That's the first part.
I don't have just one proud moment. I think my proudest moment was to keep going, even through the adversity, even when I doubted myself. So the proudest moment was several proud moments, but to keep going. I can remember my freshman year, we were only taking 12 hours. They wanted us to only take 12 hours to get acclimated to the academic schedule, to get acclimated to the travel schedule, and just being a D1 athlete. And I started failing my math class. And if I would have failed that math class, that means I wouldn't have been able to have played the second half of the season. So just learning to push yourself, learning to communicate, learning to adjust and do whatever it took. That meant for me building a relationship with my professor, going in, sitting there, having my professor tutor me, and I passed the class. And so for me, that has been my greatest moment to learn how to play the game of life, to learn how to look at myself and hold myself accountable, things like that. So that's those would have to be the greatest, the things for me.
Yes. Now, please, I have to ask you, please talk to us about your retirement. A lot of things that are kind of going on right now, especially in the just college athlete, professional athlete space, is this talk around transition, transitioning from the game, retiring, the athlete identity foreclosure, what that kind of looks like. And so, a lot of former athletes at the college and professional level are struggling with this mentally and physically. And I want to know what your thoughts are on that transition, and how would you encourage young athletes transitioning out of this space, sports?
Yeah, transition can be tough. Transition was tough for me. And I still feel after retiring for over 20 years, I still feel the ramifications of just transitioning, because mind you, my transition situation was different. You have college kids that grew up with the WNBA. We had to go abroad. So once I left college, I severed all ties with America. And in those years, my 20s, my 30s, I didn't build relationships to be able to transition into any particular fields because of the WNBA, and because I had more of an entertainment vision for my life. It was easier. It was a little bit easier to transition, but still, in that field, in that industry, we know that nothing sticks, nothing, lasts. I mean, you have to continuously evolve, and so if I had to tell the ladies coming behind me anything, it would be to start figuring out who you are and what you want to do. And although that will change, just continue to know what it is that you want to do. And while you are playing, you build those relationships. You seek people that will teach you what it is that you want, that you need to learn. You seek opportunities, and you open your mouth and say what it is that you want to do. Because if you don't open your mouth, as they say, closed mouths never get fed. So you have to learn you have to be prepared on your side, because when you go to someone, you have to be prepared. But you have to learn to ask people, because so many people really and truly want to help.
Yes.
So
for sure. And so many people will ask you for something at the drop of the hat. I think that if you're struggling with asking people for stuff, because it is kind of awkward at first, networking is very awkward. This person you don't know from anywhere is like, hey, I need something. But people will ask you for something at the drop of a dime. They will just ask you for it. So why not flip it and ask them. So I love that. Thanks for saying that. It's real.
I call myself Mrs. Zoom because I'm doing Zoom. Like I've done so many Zoom interviews and so much. So I just said, I'm going to, if I need something, I'm going to reach out and say, hey, this is Kim. I did that interview for, it's for sure. But again, it's learning how to barter too. Mm-hmm. It's not always about what can you do for me? What can you do? It's maybe collaborating on something and saying, I have this idea or whatever it is. But it's just learning how to play the game of life.
Absolutely. Now, last segment of this interview is my favorite. It's quick fire section. You have to answer in one sentence or one word or less. Are you ready?
Ooh, okay.
All right, cool. Who is your favorite hooper that you've ever played against?
My favorite hooper that I've ever played against. Mm-hmm. Jeez. I'm going to say Pam McGee because she's a personal friend. Pam McGee.
It always hits different when you're playing against friends.
And because, we have history. We played against each other. She played at SC. I played at Arizona State, same conference. Mm-hmm. And then, we played against each other abroad and played against each other in the WNBA. And then she had her reality show on the OWN network, and I was one of her cast members, one of her girlfriends. So I'll say Pam McGee. She was my favorite player.
All right, Pam, you hear that? What's a cause that you really care about?
I would say self-empowerment, human evolution, self-empowerment, just people owning their power, their inner strength, owning who they are. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I guess, so I have to rephrase that. Yeah, people owning who they are and what they have. Being proud of who they are and what they have. There we go.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. What is your favorite modeling campaign that you've had to work on?
Wow. CoverGirl.
Yes. That's so dope. Who's your favorite female athlete?
Oh gosh, I don't have just one.
Okay, you can choose a few.
I'm watching I'm watching the Australian Open, and of course we have Serena. I have so many WNBA players. Oh my God, I can't. I just girl power. I'm so proud because I feel like they're all my sisters, and so I don't have. Then you have the high school athletes that are coming, and golly, I'm just go girls, girl power.
It's a time, isn't it? It's a time for female empowerment. It's like now we are moving. And my last question for you, where is your favorite place that you have lived? Because you have lived, okay.
Oh, man, there we go again. I can't really even say that either. Because there's good and bad for everything. But gosh. Gosh, you're making me have to think. I'll say New York.
New York? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I can appreciate that. The concrete jungle. Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that concludes our interview. Kim Hampton, where can we find you on socials, by the way? Want to make sure we plug your socials.
So everything is my name, KYM. KYM Hampton, HAMPTON. So you can find me. I am Kim Hampton on Instagram, Kim Hampton on Twitter, or it might be Kim Hampton, and then on Facebook, Kim Hampton. And so that's how you can find me.
I love it. And thank you so much for being with us today. My name is Brianna DeBose. I'm your host for this Women in Sports series for the Black Sports Network. Kim Hampton, you are amazing, phenomenal woman. Thank you so much for being on with us today.
Thank you, Brianna. I truly appreciate it.
Absolutely.